Hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Mike here. Today, by popular request, I'm going to show you how I depopulate these Telecom boards using my kilns, okay? That's one way I depopulate boards, is I put them in a kiln and I raise the temperature up above the melting point of solder, and then, you know, it's really easy to get all the components off that way. I mean, it's maybe not the best way to do it. There's pluses and minuses to using a kiln. But I happen to have kilns, so I use them, you know. They shouldn't just be sitting there. They should be doing something. So we'll talk more about the pluses and minuses of using the kilns as we go along. And I think in the future I'm going to investigate some alternative ways of depopulating boards too. But for now, we're going to run these boards through the kiln. See, I got these boards from a friend of mine. He sold it to me for cheap just to make some space in his garage. I got a couple of videos on unboxing these. I'll put links in the upper right as we go along. You can check it out. This stuff came in first, then I got this stuff later. This is from old telecom equipment, and this is old Ethernet switch equipment. So they're very different types of boards, different generations, but they've all got good stuff on them. But I need to prep these boards before I put them in the kiln, okay? One of the disadvantages of depopulating stuff in the kiln is that plastic, rubber, whatnot parts on these boards are liable to melt and run across the board and cause a horrible mess and entomb stuff in there. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off any plastic on the boards that I can just rip off. Okay, so that's part of the prep work for putting these boards in the kiln. Also, part of the prep work is to just remove any ICs that are socketed. Just take them right out. And then we'll just take off these card ejectors, because they're plastic and they're just going to melt. So we might as well get rid of them. They come off real easy. It rips the corner of the board off, but hey, so what? These boards are about to get depopulated anyway. Okay, now another disadvantage of using the kilns is all the solder on this board is going to melt. And I'm going to have to shake, rattle, bang the board to get the parts to come out, because some of these parts are through-hole parts. Basically, they go through the board and they're soldered on the back. So they're not going to automatically fall off when this thing heats up above the melting point of solder. Now these newer boards, they're almost all surface mount components. All these parts will just fall off the board once the board gets above the melting point of solder, pretty much. I'll just have to, you know, slightly bang it, rattle it, whatever. All these parts on both sides will pretty much fall off. Going to take a little bit more rattling and banging on this to get these parts off. And the problem with that is the molten solder can go everywhere when you're doing that. So I want to harvest these gold fingers off of here before I put this in the kiln, just so they don't get covered with solder. I don't want that to happen. Okay? Because that's going to make it harder to get the gold out if they are covered in solder. So, okay, so this board is pretty much prepped for the kiln. We got the gold fingers off, so they won't get covered in solder. We got the big plastic card ejectors off, so they're not going to melt and run across the board. We got a lot of IC chips on this board that are going to come off. There's these ceramic conformally coated modules. I have no idea what's in these. Could be good stuff, could be just be garbage, hard to say. But they will come off, and I'll be able to process them. I can crush them up and see what's inside them. There's a whole bunch of relays on this board. These relays probably have silver contacts, maybe even gold contacts. So we'll get the relays off the board. There's a bunch of other stuff, mostly not worth anything. Oh, there's some dip switches. Dip switches generally contain gold. So that board's ready for the kiln. So I got a couple more boards here. Going to do the same thing. You know, we'll pull the socketed IC out, which is looks like an EEPROM. Rip off the ejectors. And then take off the Take off the gold fingers. There we go. And the gold fingers, there's a couple of different ways to get the gold out of these. You can soak these in like AP solution until the underlying metal dissolves and releases the gold foils. Or you can use a gold plating stripping agent like Eco Goldex. I have a lot of videos about using Eco Goldex. These will probably go through the Eco Goldex process just because it's so much easier and quicker than using AP solution. So there's another board ready for the kiln. Okay, this board has, again, a lot of relays on it, a whole lot of relays. Some of these conformally coated modules. It's got a lot of capacitors on it. It's got a whole bunch of little transformers on it, which really are no use to me, but you know, you're going to get a lot of junk, you know, when you're depopulating boards. So you just got to sort through it, throw out the junk, and keep the good stuff. The IC chips are the good stuff. The relays probably have silver contacts. These big Mylar capacitors probably aren't worth anything, but these smaller disc capacitors probably have some silver in them. And then I don't know about these ceramic modules here or these ceramic modules up here. Hard to say whether there's anything good in them or not. Really hard to say. Got some more dip switches. Oh, not only is there gold inside the dip switches, these dip switches have gold-plated legs. So, yeah. Those are nice. So we got another board here. I will do the same thing to it. You know, I'll take the, there's got 3 socketed EPROMs. I'll pull them off. I'll get the gold fingers off it. I'll get the card ejectors off. This board has a ton of IC chips on it. IC chips contain good gold. So that's a beautiful thing. We got, again, a whole line of dip switches across the top. So that's nice. Got dip switches here, dip switches here. They contain gold. So good stuff. Good stuff. So that's it. That's how I prep these kind of boards to go in the kiln. You know, get off anything plasticky. Get the gold fingers off before they go in the kiln. Get the socketed IC chips out before it goes in the kiln. Just, you know, why not? It's so easy. Just pull them out. Some boards have a lot of socketed IC chips. Some just have a few. So that's how I prepare these kind of boards to go in the kiln. These kind of boards. Well, these boards here, they're actually pretty big. I'm not 100% certain how well they're going to fit in my kiln. These kind of boards, I generally take off the heat sinks first. There's a lot of thermal mass there in the heat sinks, which is kind of their purpose. And that's going to prevent the chips underneath from coming loose in a timely manner. And these heat sinks, they're made out of extruded aluminum, so don't get rid of them. Throw them on your extruded aluminum pile. You know, heat sinks add up. I've made a fair amount of money taking boxes full of old heat sinks to the scrapyard and selling them. Extruded aluminum, it's worth money. I take the heat sinks off, I take the heat conducting film off, and expose all of the lovely Broadcom BGA chips underneath so that they can fall off. These chips, I have found, contain a decent amount of gold. And then, of course, we got the lovely gold corner BGAs on here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 gold corner BGAs on this board alone, plus a lot of other kinds of BGAs, some flat packs. And oh, there's gold corner, gold band oscillator on here. Only one? Sometimes there's more than one. Got some IC chips down here on these little daughter boards. These daughter boards appear to be soldered in. They'll come out in the kiln. And then we've got all these RJ45 connectors here in these gang sockets. Looks like we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 times 3. RJ45 gang sockets here. These will come off, and each of these sockets contains 8 little gold-plated fingers in there, or connectors. So there's a lot of gold plating here. Again, this will come off in the Eco Goldex. Over here we've got the optical ports. We got 4 optical ports. There's some gold-plated connectors in there. These will come off in the kiln. Basically, once the solder melts, all this stuff will come off. Now, we got some fingers here, but I'm not going to bother harvesting them because they just look like copper. They don't look like they are gold-plated. Cisco cheaped out on this board. They didn't gold-plate the connector. So I've got some more boards to prep. I'll basically do the same thing. This one's easy. The heat sinks are already off of it. Probably got knocked off in shipping. And this one, yeah, same here. So I will prep the rest of these boards and get them ready to go. And then I'll meet you back at the kiln and we will depopulate these boards and see what we get out of them. Okay, here we are at the kiln early in the morning before it gets hot. That's a good time to start up a kiln before it gets hot and you add to the heat. Alright, so I've got, this is my scut kiln here. It's about 17 inches across on the inside. It's a typical ceramics kiln. Now, I was talking about advantages and disadvantages of kilns. And a couple more disadvantages of kilns is, first off, they're very expensive. So if you want to do what I'm doing, don't run out and buy a new ceramics kiln to do this. Because you're going to pay through the nose and it'll take forever to pay for itself. No, what you do is you look for used ones. Cheap, okay? People get into the hobby of ceramics. They think it's going to be the end-all, be-all hobby when they're retired. They do it for a couple of years. They get tired of it. And they sell off their nearly new kilns dirt cheap. Okay, so look for used kilns on the market. They're all over the place. All right, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, auctions, estate sales, garage sales. That's where I get all my kilns. I mean, I paid practically nothing for this thing. And it was in a lot better condition when I got it. I've used the heck out of it. I got another kiln over there, much bigger even than this one, that I paid like $100 for. Okay, it's a monster kiln. That's like a $3,000 kiln now. All right. So get yourself a used kiln. Don't break the bank. Go out and buy a new one. Okay, especially if you're just going to use it for depopulating boards. Okay, you don't need a decent kiln for that. You just need an old junky one. All right. Another disadvantage of kilns is they're meant to get very, very hot to fire ceramics. So this thing's capable of getting up to about 2,000 degrees. We don't want that. If we put boards in here and get it up to 2,000 degrees, there's not going to be anything but ashes and a puddle of molten metal in the bottom. Okay, and a whole lot of toxic smoke's going to come out of it. So we don't want that. We want to get up to a little over the temperature melting point of solder, which is about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I run them about 410. Because I know there's going to be cold spots in the kiln. So for that you need a temperature controller. Now your kiln may come with some sort of rudimentary temperature controller. You can just set it on low and monitor the temperature and start depopulating the parts off the boards once it gets up to about 400. You can keep the door partly open. There's lots of different ways you can do it. I happen to have a precision temperature controller which I built many years ago because I'm also a glass worker. And when you're doing glass in the kilns, you gotta have precise temperature control. So I have a precise temperature controller. It's a ramp soak controller. I have it programmed. It's gonna ramp up to about 410 degrees and then just hold there. And I should be able to get several batches of boards through it today once it's up to temperature, okay? I've got a little wire cage in here just to keep the boards from getting up against the heating elements on the side. That helps prevent charring, keeps the smoke down, prevents things from catching fire, which is not good. You know, stuff leaning against the coils will catch fire. I also have a ceramic catch basin in the bottom. I don't know how well that's showing up. It's dark in there. I have a ceramic catch basin in the bottom. It's going to catch all the pieces, well, almost all the pieces. Some will miss the catch basin, but it's easy enough to clean out later once the kilns cool down. But most of the parts will go in the catch basin. So that makes life a little easier, having the catch basin in there and the wire screen. So now it's just a matter of loading some boards in there. So I got 5 boards here of the type we were prepping for depopulation yesterday. You know, got some IC chips, got a lot. This board in particular has a lot of dip switches on it, and there's good golden dip switches. Got some gold connectors. So on these gold connectors, I forgot to mention in the prep work, if you can, if they're screwed on, take the screws out. so that they will come out once the solder melts, and they won't just stay stuck on there until the plastic and the connector melts and falls off. So we're just going to distribute these around the inside of the kiln so that they all get heated. These connectors are riveted on. I could have drilled out the rivets, but I'm not too worried about a couple of connectors. So I'm just going to distribute these as best I can in here so that they all get heated. Some are going to heat, like the one on the inside here is going to heat slower than the ones on the outside. And this one I'm going to set on top, just like so. So we got, what, 5 boards in there now. So I will start the program running. Kiln will heat up. I'm going to also crack the lid of the kiln a little bit to let smoke out. Okay? So we don't get a big puff of it when I open the door. Nasty smoke in my face. There will be a little bit of smoke. We'll start the program up and we'll let it run. And we'll come back when things up to temperature. Okay, it's been a while. We are up to temperature. I actually ramped the temperature up slowly because my kilns got soaked when Hurricane Ian came through. So the bricks were wet. I didn't want to have any steam explosions and blow out the bricks because they're in bad enough shape already. So I ramped up the temperature slowly. So this stuff's been in here a while and is probably pretty well cooked and ready to come apart. Got my welding gloves on. Got a few tools here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get these boards to depopulate now. Look at that. Look at that. Look at all the parts just coming right off. I bang on them. Just a few things staying behind. Ooh, even with my welding gloves, I can't hold that board for long. I don't really care about that IC socket. That can stay on there. Now, one occupational hazard of doing this, if you got big electrolytic capacitors on some of these boards, they could explode in the kiln. So be mindful of that. It could be like fireworks going off in your face. So now these IC chips don't want to come off. They're all through hole. That might need to heat up a little while longer. Then I can pull them off with yeah, these IC chips are coming off. But at some point you might just have to go at it with the pliers and pull the chips out. It's actually pretty quick and easy. Hard to do in welding gloves, but generally pretty quick and easy. Okay, we'll put this one back down in here so it can stay warm. Parts out of here. And of course there's a temperature gradient in the kiln. It's warmer at the top than at the bottom, so stuff that was at the bottom is going to be cooler. So I turn the parts over, or I turn the boards over, so the cooler side is now up, and I just let them cook for a little while longer. Wow, the parts are just falling off these boards. Some of the parts. Some of them need a little cajoling to come off. And of course, like I said, there's a temperature gradient, so it's cooler at the bottom of the kiln, so stuff falls down there. It's not going to melt into one big lump. It's going to stay relatively cool down there, especially since I keep the door open a little bit. So yes, I know there's probably better ways to do this. But like I said earlier, I have kilns, so I use them. It's just be a shame for them to just sit here doing nothing when I can be off doing other things while the kilns are doing the work of depopulating my boards for me. Of course, I don't really want everything on these boards, so Some stuff can stay. I don't really care. I want all the IC chips. I want these ceramic modules. I don't really know what they are. I don't know if there's any value in them, but we'll find out. See this stuff just fall off? All the stuff I want's falling off anyway. These small IC chips, they can just be knocked right off. They're surface mount. They come right off. Well, that's really all I want off of this board. Well, there's a couple lines of LEDs right there. LEDs contain a little gold and silver. Alright, that's pretty good. There's an IC chip. That's pretty good. Again, just go after the stuff I really want, the stuff that has value. Let's see about this board here. This one I actually went at with the torch before I put it in here and salvaged a few parts off of it. Torch and heat gun. I actually have a video about salvaging parts for reuse from these boards. I salvaged some Z80 chips, some clock crystals, some logic chips. Carefully, not like this. Carefully salvage them. And you know what? They work. I'll put a link to that video in the upper right. And then a link to the video on my second channel where I'm actually testing out the chips after salvaging them. And they're working. What do you know about that? A lot of these chips, they ain't going to work after this treatment. But you can get the maximum value out of your boards by salvaging some parts for reuse. If you know what you're doing and you know what's good. This needs to cook a little while longer. But we're getting there. In fact, while that's cooking, I'm going to put one of these other boards in. Start it heating up. So I got one of these Telecom boards here, one of these switch boards. Now most of these components are surface mount. I don't expect a lot of trouble getting them off. So I'm going to put this in here and let it start heating up while that board cooks a little while longer. And then we'll be back in a bit. Okay, it's been a little while, maybe not long enough. We'll see what's going on in here. Oh, look at that. I love depopulating parts from modern equipment that has mostly surface mount stuff. Again, the stuff at the top didn't get hot enough yet, but look at the parts just falling off that board. And then let's see about this. This board right here. Get a few more ICs off of it. See, the older through-hole stuff is a pain in the you-know-what. But fortunately, most of what I depopulate is the newer stuff. Okay, that's pretty much everything I want off that board. Look at that. Look at this stuff just coming right off. Not quite as many components on these boards as on the other boards, but they're high value components. There are a lot of gold quarter BGAs on that. They've already all come off. So we'll just let that cook a little while longer. All that other stuff should come off real easy too. Alright, finally got all the components I want off this board. The last couple of IC chips came off after it soaked a little while longer. Look at this board. Look at this. These gang RJ45 connectors are starting to fall off. The daughter board's falling off. There's that other one off. Optical connectors. Oh, you know what? Okay, I see what it is with the optical connectors. They are pressed in. They're not soldered in. There's gold band oscillator. Look at this. This board's clean. I had to do almost nothing to it. Nothing. On the back, we got a lot of little MLCCs. I can just wipe them right off into the catch basin down there. And then we got a clean board. I will, well, there's a couple little IC chips right there. I'll just knock those right off. Okay, and we got a clean board. I will put a couple more boards in, and what I'll do is I will pull these out once the board's cool because they are pressed in, they aren't soldered in. And there's a couple more little components. All right. A couple more of these Telecom boards in. Most of the components are up here, so let me put that towards the top. This one, look at all of the gold corner BGAs on that one. Wow. Let's get it in here and get it heating up. Yeah. Okay. Come back in a bit and see what we got. Okay, been a little while. See what we've got. Look at the parts just fall off. I love it. Look at that. Just absolutely wonderful. Let me flip it over. Same with this, just all falling off. Yep. Look at that. Yep. Let me flip it over and leave it in there for a little while longer, see if I can get some more of those parts off. Actually, those are kind of coming off, but we'll let it sit a little while longer. Yeah, the modern surface mount ones, I just love them. They're so easy. And it's been a few more minutes. Parts off. Oh yeah. A few parts remaining. Look at that. Comes right off. Right off. There. Get all these MLCCs off. I am accumulating quite a pile of depopulated boards down here at my feet. Let me tell you. That RJ45 connector off of there. A couple little chips, a gold band oscillator, line MLCCs. A couple more chips. It all just comes right off. Some MLCCs and some tantalum capacitors on the back. They come right off. And another clean board. So while I've got the kiln hot, I'm going to run a few more boards through it. But only a few more because my catch basin down there is getting pretty darn full. So you run a few more through, then I'll shut the kiln down and we'll let it cool off and we'll sort through all this stuff that's coming off of these boards. Alright? Alright, so there I got a pile of depopulated boards, at least depopulated of everything that I want, everything of value to me. That's not to say that there's no value left in these boards. Some scrapyards will buy depopulated boards. It's worth your while to check because there's quite a few pounds of boards here. You might make a few bucks. My scrapyard, at least one of them, will buy depopulated boards. So it's worth your while to check and see if you can sell depopulated boards. Now once the kiln cools down a little bit, I'll pull the catch basin full of all the parts that came off these boards out and we'll get a look at that and we'll start sorting through them and see what kind of value we've got. Okay, it's been a few hours. This stuff's cooled down enough to handle, so I pulled the catch basin out of the kiln. Now I scraped up most of the stuff that missed the catch basin and threw it in, but there's still a lot of small stuff in the bottom of the kiln. Every once in a while when I'm running large volumes of stuff through the kiln, I'll just get my shop vac out and vacuum out all the stuff on the bottom of the kiln that misses the catch basin and then dump the contents of the shop vac into the catch basin so I can sort it all out. So now it's just a matter of sorting. And you can get as detailed with this as you want or as undetailed with it as you want. I'm going to keep all these RJ45 gang connectors because I can run these through the Eco Goldex solution really quick and easy and get all the gold out of all of those little gold-plated pins inside them. Alright, so then there's a lot of them here. So, you know, I'll just start sorting through this. I'll start making piles. I'll get the big stuff out first, like these big gang connectors. And then, you know, I need to get my garbage can out here because there's a lot of stuff that's just garbage that I can throw right into the garbage can. But wow, there's a lot of gang connectors. You know, they add up. You know, I collect this stuff until I've got like a bucket full of it. Then I'll mix up some Eco Goldex and run it all through it at once. And yeah, that's a lot of gang connectors. Alright. And then we got lots of BGA chips. We got gold corner BGAs. We got other kinds of BGAs. So, you know, if you want to just sort through this stuff and get the high gold content stuff, like, you know, the gold plating and the BGAs and the IC chips, you can. Or you can, like I said, you can sort this in as much detail as you want to. You know, these little circuit boards here, these can be further depopulated. They got lots of little transistors and MLCCs on them. So, it's like LEDs on that one. So yeah, that's no, that's fully nothing good on that. I could throw that out. That's garbage. So you know, the more I do this, the longer I'm in this e-waste recycling, the more value I find in stuff. You know, I used to throw a lot of this stuff away. Well, that I can throw away, but I find more and more value in this stuff that I didn't know was there before, you know? So I process more and more of it than I used to. I could dig down in here and see what there is in here. This is more gold corner BGAs. Got lots and lots of gold corner BGAs in here. Got lots of Broadcom BGAs. I love it. They're worth lots. They've got lots of gold in them. Another gold corner BGA. Got some big IC chips here. Big flat packs. But I mean, you got everything right down to tiny little MLCCs in here, and they all have some value. I mean, even here's some disc capacitors. You know, if you want to get right down to it, these disc capacitors have some silver in them. So, you know, you can sort this stuff as much as you want. Here's the relays. Here's the relays off some of those boards. These probably have silver contacts in them, maybe even gold. I need to break a few of them open and see what's inside them. Decide how to process them. You know, some of these chips can get a little further depopulation going on. Get these transistors off. These transistors have a little bit of gold in them. There's a few little tiny IC chips on these daughter boards that didn't come off. Got connectors. Some have gold, some don't. There's a lot of garbage in here too. I have no idea what's inside these conformally coated modules. But well, actually, I can see through the conformal coating. We got some IC chips, we got some transistors, looks like opto-isolators, MLCCs, and other stuff. So, you know, there's some value to these. I'll just have to figure out how to get it out. Probably crush them up in my gold ore crusher, maybe, to free up all the stuff inside. Now we got two gold corner BGAs stuck to each other there. Lots of IC chips. I love IC chips. I just love IC chips. They're full of gold. And we got hundreds, maybe thousands of them in here. All different sizes, from great big ones down to tiny, tiny, tiny little ones down in here. There's, that's a weird one. Yeah. Got like I said, MLCCs, transistors, diodes. There's gold pins in here. You know, the more I dig through it, the more I see. Now that's trash. We got some toroidal coils. There's some more disc capacitors down there. Tantalum capacitors. There's all kinds of tantalum capacitors in here. Those have silver in them. So, you know, it's just a cornucopia of good stuff that just needs to be sorted through. We got crystals and crystal oscillators, and I know I saw quite a few. They're down in here somewhere. I'll have to, oh, there's one. Gold band oscillators. There's quite a few of them in here, so it's a matter of finding them. There's the dip switches. They've got little gold BBs inside them to make the contact. And heck, these dip switches are even gold plated on the legs. Beautiful. So there's just so much stuff here. Don't be intimidated by it. Take your time sorting it. There's a lot of junk, but there's a lot of good stuff. Look at that. That's a 48-pin IC chip there. Where's that 64? That's a 64-pin IC chip. Yeah, got some more of these conformally coated modules. No idea what's in them. We'll find out. Got connectors with gold pins. I just got to start making piles and sorting. You know, here's another connector with gold pins. You know, the more I look, the more value I see. So that's how I do it with kilns. Like I said, there's advantages and disadvantages to doing it with kilns. One of the advantages to doing it with kilns is you can see what you've got at the end. The parts are more or less intact, okay? Now if I went at those boards with like an air chisel and started just hammering everything off, I'd wind up with a whole bunch of pieces. And you know, I might not know, what is that piece? What was that? Did that have value or not? I don't know. It's just a bunch of pieces. But with the kiln, you know what you got. You know, here's another conformally coated module. You know, got relays, transformers, capacitors. The parts are more or less unmolested. A little bit melted around the edges, maybe some of them, but you know what you got. There's some connector with some gold pins on it. So that's one advantage of doing it with the kiln, is you can see what you've got. It's really easy to sort through, start making piles, you know, stuff that needs further treatment, stuff that's gold plated, IC chips, capacitors, relays, gold corner BGAs, trash. You know, just make piles and sort through it. And you know, I take my time. You know, I don't have to get this all sorted today. I can just let this sit here, and every time I walk by, I'll pull a few pieces out. You know, it's like, oh, put them on the appropriate pile. And after a while, hey, we're done. And what's going to be left in the bottom, after I'm done, after this tiny, tiny little IC chips down in there, look at that. There's some tantalum capacitors, transistors, but there's lots of other stuff in here. There's tiny, tiny little MLCCs. There's little tiny gold-plated pins. There's another gold band oscillator. There's tiny little gold pins. All this tiny stuff that's too difficult to separate out, I'll just keep it in a bag and I'll process it all at once. And I'll show you that one day, how I process all the leftovers from my catch basin and bench sweeps, okay? We'll have a video on that someday and show you how to get value out of that stuff. So, I've got my work cut out for me. I've got to sort through all this, but like I said, I'm not in any hurry. I can take my time and get it done. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video on how I depopulate stuff in my kiln interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see my future videos. A lot of this stuff's going to show up in my future videos as I process it to get the gold out of it. So subscribe to see those future videos. Press the little bell icon YouTube wants you to press to be notified when new videos come out. As a subscriber, you'll be notified when I release those videos in the future if you press that bell icon. And then check out my second channel, ElectroGeek64. Good stuff going on there. I actually harvested some parts off of those boards before I put them through the kiln, and I'm reusing them in my retro computing projects, and there's videos on that on my second channel, so check it out. And like and subscribe there too, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye. See, I got all these piles over here now, and I got my trash can right beside me, and my sorting technique is I'll decide, okay, right now I'm going to go through here and get out all these ceramic modules, whatever the heck they are. And I'll just look for ceramic modules. That's the only thing I will look for. That's the only thing I will pull out. Okay, and I will pile them up. And then I will keep that up until it starts getting hard to find ceramic modules. Okay, then I'll decide, okay, I'm going to pull trash out next. So here's trash, trash, trash. These capacitors are trash. Just pull out trash. These transformers are trash, trash. That's got an IC chip welded onto that one. And just pull out trash. You know, until trash starts getting hard to find. And then I'll switch to something else. Okay, I'm going to pull out IC chips now. I'll pull out IC chips. It's going to be a while before they get hard to find, although I don't think that's an IC chip. That's something else. That's trash. But that, pull out IC chips. And you know, I just switch back and forth between things until, you know, it's pretty much empty. You know, of course I can pull IC chips out of here till the cows come home. You know, I'll switch back to ceramic modules, because now I've cleaned some other stuff out. I've cleaned some IC chips and some trash out of here, and I can start seeing all the ceramic modules in here again. So I can start pulling them out. You know, and I just do that. Just try to focus on one thing. Focus on quartz crystals and crystal oscillators. There's a gold band oscillator. There's quartz crystal. You know, just get your mind focused on one thing. There's quartz crystal. Ignore everything else. Just look for that one thing. Sort through it. You know, quartz crystal. Quartz crystal. There's another quartz crystal. You know, ignore everything else. You can get your mind set on one thing. Okay. And then, oh look, dip switches. Dip switches. You know, and as the level of stuff in here gets lower, it gets easier and easier to see the stuff you're looking for. Dip switches. Gonna have a lot of dip switches after this. Have to process some and get the gold out. So anyway, that's how I sort it. Look, it's the piles are getting bigger and the amount of stuff in here is getting smaller, so it's working. All right. So that's a little extra bonus tip for you on how I sort all this stuff. I think I'm gonna go back to doing trash now, but hey, thanks for watching. Bye.